Madam Presiding Member, I make that 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good morning. Bore da croeso, good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of Council, with a special welcome to the pupils of Llantarnam Primary School, along with their staff. Welcome. The Council meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings, and I have had no requests to speak in Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera, and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you wish to speak. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you're not talking. May I remind members that as per the statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending the meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending this meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask you all to please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting, please. There's still a few cameras off, I'm noting. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1 is the attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Dominique, have we any apologies for absence, please?
I've had apologies from Councillors Ron Burnett and Mark Jones.
Thank you, Dom. I'd also like to add that Superintendent Mike Richards was due to attend the meeting today, but he sends his apologies and he's looking forward to attending the next one in the future. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Justine Cass, Deputy Monitoring Officer, have you any advice from members, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Members have got no advice on any agenda item today. If you have any personal prejudicial interest in any item, then please state now or state when it arises during discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justine. That takes us to agenda item 4, which is the confirmation of the Council minutes on the 23rd of July 2024, starting on page 5 of the agenda. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. Councillor Williams, you have something to raise?
No, simply, Madam Presiding Officer, to say thank you to Democratic Services officers for the succinct and informative minutes of that meeting of the 28th of July. I was not able to be present, but I really got a feel of the meeting outcomes without having to listen to the whole thing, so just want to pass that on.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. That's welcome. Any other comments on the minutes? I'll take those as approved then. Thank you. Members, agenda item 5 is the update on actions. The updates on what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 63 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? I don't see anything, so I can ask members if they agree to note the update on the actions, please. They're noted, thank you. Agenda item 6 is the receipt of petitions. There are no petitions today, so we'll move on to agenda item 7. There are no public question time, so we move on again to agenda item 8, which is the announcements from the leader or the chief executive. We take the leader first. Leader, do you have any announcements, please?
Yes, please, Presiding Member. 3 announcements for me today. First of all, I'm sure all members will want to share my respects on the recent passing of Alan Williams. Alan was a co-opted member on Cleaner Overview and Scrutiny Committee for many years, and I know he brought a wealth of knowledge and experience to the process. He also sat on the board of TLT for some time before he retired. Our condolences and best wishes to Alan's family and friends. Secondly, may I pay tribute to local GB cyclist James Bull from Pontier, who along with Stephen Lloyd won a gold medal at the recent Paralympics in Paris with a superb performance in the 1,000 metre time trial. Lastly, a big welcome to the pupils and staff of Llantarnam Community Primary School who are attending Council today to receive their Healthy Schools National Quality Award from Councillor Clark, who I'll hand over to now.
Thank you, Leader, and you're all very welcome, staff, head teacher and pupils. The school that achieve the National Qualification Award are implementing health and wellbeing initiatives at the very highest level. The prestigious award can only be awarded by Welsh Government after schools have demonstrated meeting all the criteria of the awards, which are 7 heads. And these are food and fitness, mental and emotional health and well-being, personal development and relationships, substance use and misuse, environment, safety and hygiene. And these are done through the school, but particularly through various committees of the school that the students present today all sit on. One of the key principles, and having met the students, it's clear and in abundance in the school, is the importance of pupil participation. If I invite the school to come down to the front, and I'll just read something as they do so, we'll have a picture and you can put that somewhere special, obviously. To get the award, 2 private inspectors went to the school from Public Health. And I'm not going to read everything, I'll put the report in the members' room, but the bit that struck me was the care and support for the well-being of Llantarnam Community Primary School is to be highly commended, and it is clear that the well-being of the school community is at the core of the school's ethos and organisation. What more can you say about the school? So as they're there, myself and the leader will just join them for the presentation, and then we can get back to business.
Thank you, members. That takes us on to the Chief Executive announcements. Do you have any announcements, Chief Executive?
Just one announcement from me today. I'd just like to introduce and welcome Andrew Lovegrove to his first council meeting. Andrew is the new Strategic Director for Resources, and he will be in the near future new Section 151 officer replacing Nigel Weir. Welcome to the team, Andrew. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Welcome, Andrew, from the Council. Agenda item 9, the annual report from the Chair of Ethics and Standards Committee, which starts on page 65 of your agenda. Mr Roderick Guest, the Chair of Ethics and Standards Committee, could you deliver the report, please?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to members for inviting me along to speak today. First things first, apologies, you will note there was a technical error, and the report in front of you is an earlier draft, not the final draft. The final draft has been published in the ethics papers for March, and it will be uploaded online as part of the pack today. You'll be pleased to know that that means I'm going to speak for slightly longer than I intended to. This is my second annual report as Chair of Ethics. For those who don't know, there's three Torfaen Council members, one community councillor and 4 lay members on the committee. It's our duty, part of our duty is to monitor the compliance of leaders of the political groups in their role of promoting and maintaining good standards. As part of this, we created a template which was shared with all the leaders for them to evidence how they do this, and we invited them into one of our meetings during 23-24 so we could have a constructive, challenging conversation with them around how they do that. First of all, I'd like to thank them for their full participation in that. It was really helpful, and I am pleased to say that as a committee we were satisfied with the work that the leaders do in terms of promoting good attendance. As part of that conversation, while the leaders believe that the code of conduct training is very good, there was an acknowledgement that doing it at the start of a 4-year term, it'd be helpful to have a refresher during the year. So all members should be invited to refresher training next month, I believe. Just a way of ensuring that those good standards of behaviour and conduct are maintained. As a committee, we're responsible for dealing with complaints under the local resolution protocol. And in 2023 to 2024, I'm pleased to say we dealt with no complaints. We also have responsibility for dispensations. These largely relate to members' small scheme donations, and during the financial year we considered 32 of those. We also receive reports on member attendance at council meetings, seminars and training. I believe this is an important part of the role in terms of driving good standards. When we reviewed the attendance for 23-24, it was noted that there have been changes to the political balance within the council, and that had an effect on representation and attendance figures through the year. So going forward, we've made a request that is captured, that the amount of meetings that a member can attend compared to how many they did attend is captioned, and we've also requested that going forward that the committee is informed if a committee isn't quorum due to attendance. While the committee, we do acknowledge, and I think it definitely comes through with the conversations with some of the leaders around the challenges sometimes of attending all meetings, and we recognise that around work, sickness, family commitments, etc., and that there will always be some times where it's unavoidable. However, I would like to take this opportunity to stress that whenever possible, if members could turn up for the committee meetings, that would be great. In terms of social media, following on from our discussions with the leaders, you should have all had the WLGA guidance on social media, and the conversation is very much focused on the impact that social media can have on your well-being. Troll behaviour and people saying things online that would be problematic, so you should have received that guidance as a result of our meetings. And finally, we reviewed the whistle-blowing arrangement for the authority, and we welcomed the move to a single document, and we're pleased with the changes made. That is everything that's in the annual report. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rodri. Any questions to Rodri? Peter?
Yeah, just to thank Rodri, and also to thank all the members of the Ethics and Standard Committee for their service, and to the group leaders on this council for their work together over the course of this year, which I think has been a great improvement over the last couple of years, how we can meet together and discuss issues. As well as maintaining standards of conduct of members, I do feel a responsibility as a group leader to safeguard the well-being and the personal safety of members, and that can be a great concern, I know, to us all at a time of social media and often heightened debate, which can too easily lead to abuse. So I welcome the increased guidance and support in these matters, and would welcome further discussions about how we fulfil our duty of care to our fellow members, as well as to the public during the course of the year.
Thank you, Leader. I don't see any other... Oh, Councillor Dave Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. It was helpful, thank you, Rodri, for updating that this was an early draft, because the point I was going to make was simply that in the interest of openness and transparency, it's quite helpful to know who the members are of the committee, which I'm sure will be in the final version, but thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, can I just confirm, yes, that the names and everything is in the final draft?
Thank you. No other comments or questions? The recommendations start on page 66 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Are there any members against the recommendations? And are there any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much, Rodri. Thank you for your attendance this morning. Takes us to agenda item 10, which is the annual scrutiny report 23-24, which starts on page 71 of the agenda. Tom Roberts, Business and Democratic Support Services Manager. Could you deliver your report, please, along with Rebecca?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The report presented to Council is the annual Overview and Scrutiny Report. It is recommended good practice that all councils publish a summary of their scrutiny function each year to actively promote the role and value of scrutiny and how it adds to both internal and external stakeholders. Primarily, the report provides an overview of the work you as members have carried out during the previous municipal year in scrutinising the Council's work and holding the Council's executive to account. The report is the Chair's report, so my introduction will be short before I hand over to the Chairs of the respective scrutiny committees over the previous year. I would like to start by thanking Rebecca, who is sat alongside me, who, as you know, manages the scrutiny function. She has overseen the development of the report and has been instrumental in shaping and improving the annual report year on year. Furthermore, I'd like to thank Geraint, who has provided excellent support to Rebecca and the wider scrutiny function over the previous year. Effective scrutiny is a key component of the Council's overall arrangements for robust governance. The document therefore provides assurances that appropriate checks and balances are in place through our scrutiny function. The report gives a high-level view of the work that has been carried out alongside some key data on different aspects of the work, including the amount of scrutiny that has taken place, the recommendations made, and how they have been dealt with. It's important that we don't just look at and review how much work scrutiny did and what it achieved. Most importantly, the report considers how within it a review of the overall impact of scrutiny. Key developments that have been made during the year, including the monitoring of service plans and a greater self-evaluation, are also included within the report. As you would expect, there are areas of work identified that we're looking to develop in the year ahead, not least in responding to the recent member survey. These include looking at how we can do more to improve involve the public in scrutiny, developing more of an assurance role for scrutiny through an oversight on performance, and ensuring members have all the training and support they need to be as effective as possible in delivering the scrutiny function. Finally, each committee has their own review section of the work they have carried out, including a statement from each of the respective chairs. This feels like a good point to hand back to the presiding member and to invite any of the chairs of scrutiny who may wish to say a few words in support of the report.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any chairs wishing to speak? Shall I take the first one? As Chair of Education, I'm pleased to present the annual report of Torfaen Council Education Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the 23-24 period. Over the past year, our committee has diligently worked towards enhancing the educational landscape in our community, addressing the key agenda items and fostering collaboration amongst stakeholders. We've covered topics of ALN, additional learning needs, Educational Achievement Service Business Plan, the Digital Strategy, Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, and Sustainable Communities for Learning, the former 21st century schools. And we have a programme of school visits planned. Items for development for 24-25, looking ahead, our communities have identified several key areas for development in the up-and-coming year. We continue the focus on ALN, and we remain committed to improving support mechanisms for learners and additional learning needs. Early years has been an agenda item that we hope to pick up again this year, looking at the most crucial years of a child's development. Enhanced community engagement, and we aim to strengthen partnerships, particularly with the voice of young people, but also with parents, governors, staff and members of the public, fostering a collaborative approach to our educational governance. Schools maintenance, offering our staff, students and community the opportunity to work, learn and play in buildings fit for purpose for the future generations. On the implementation of digital initiatives, and we'll work towards the effective implementation of digital initiatives outlined in the digital strategy. Sustainability and environment. Education, our committee will explore ways to embed sustainable principles into the curriculum and promote environmental education across schools. This leaves me, on behalf of the committee, to thank all democratic services and scrutiny officers, along with the education chief officers and the team, and all who have contributed to the success of the Education and Scrutiny Committee. Thank you. Are there any other chairs wishing to speak now? Stuart Ashley. Councillor Ashley.
Right, I managed to unmic. I'd like to thank all those that attended and contributed to the cross-cutting meetings last year. It was quite a spread of meetings, and I would like to commend the team that put together this year's report, because it's got a lot of graphics, which has made it a lot easier for everybody to read. It's a good read, actually. Last year we did climate change and nature emergency, which was always a passion, I think, of mine, but every member. We then did the meet, which I wasn't in attendance because I was in hospital at the time, initial revenue estimates for 24 and 25, followed by the one that's always a delight to do, which is strategic quality plan. And it's wonderful to hear this council's approach to that service. Then we did the highlight of the cross-cutting year, which is financial planning, which, as usual, we because we'd done the initial planning, we had an idea where we're going with that, followed by the county plan and the delivery plan. And then the last one, which we did, I'm sure you'll remember, because most members are backbench members at this, was the workforce-related data and trends. What I would like to say, because I'm now relinquished this chairship, and I'm now chair of economy and environment, which is a change for me after the years I've done cross-cutting. I think we need to be, and I probably say this every year, need to be take scrutiny as a sounding board, challenge new ideas that we need to work with. as I said, in my report, I look forward to my new role as chair of the Economy and Environment, and I wish David Williams luck in that role, because I've done it for an awful long time. And I remain focused on contributing to a member of the committee and working with members of my new committee. And I think I'm getting the message now that people are beginning to get confident in how they contribute, because there's no need to be afraid of these things. If you want to contribute, please contribute. And I think that's true of all the scrutiny committees. I've been on the council probably now about 12 years now, and I think it's your scrutiny committees, and it's important that the contributions are from all backbench members. Thank you very much for your trust you put in me as the scrutiny chair, and I think that's true of all of us. And I look forward to doing the rest of the scrutiny that we've got in the programme that I'm going to take forward this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Councillor Janet Jones.
Thank you, Chair. The Scrutiny of Health Committee was really well attended by all our members, and I think we set some challenging questions to the officers that came on many occasions. We were involved in the integrated reablement, and we also involved questions for looked after children, including those unaccompanied children coming from war-torn areas. I need to thank all the support from all the members of the committee, from all our scrutiny officers, and for the strategic directors who came to speak to us. I'm looking forward to the new chair that I have on Children's Services, and I hope that I'll get the continued support that I've had in previous years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Member. I largely just echo what colleagues have said. I'd echo Tom in terms of the thanks to the Democratic Services officers for the support, to members for their support and attendance, and those who came along at field visits, etc. as well. I would, however, note my slight concern in the drop in the average numbers of attendance from last year to this year, and really I would echo very much what the chair of the Ethics and Standards Committee said, which is that perhaps we need to do our best to try and attend, or at least give apologies or contributions if we're not feeling able to attend the meeting. So that's my only note. I think it's helpful to see the examples that have been set out on page 83, and I commend the report to all members.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other questions from any members? The leader, Councillor Anthony Hunt.
Can I just come in, first of all, to thank all the chairs and the members who serve on scrutiny committees. There are very much, looking around the country, two ways that scrutiny seems to work. Either, it's given cursory attention by people and just sort of done as a matter of course, or it's done as a genuine process to try and improve decision-making and council policy and outcomes. And I'm very pleased that we've increasingly moved towards the second way, and that's the way that scrutiny is certainly engaged with. I think the way that scrutiny is done, the timeliness of it is important. The budget scrutiny process, for example, that Sue, myself and Kelly before us have put in place, very much tries to get the input of scrutiny members as soon as possible in the process to get your input into decisions, rather than just having scrutiny after the event, when often it's too late to do anything about it anyway. So, that timeliness, I think, is very important, certainly to me and to other exec members. So thank you for the way that that's engaged with as well. Certainly my expectations of a leader, of officers and executive members, is to work together in a collaborative way with scrutiny to try and get the best outcomes for the people we serve. And thank you to everyone who's taken part in that this year.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Elizabeth Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. Twice already in this meeting this morning, we've heard about alluding to member attendance at committee meetings. I just want to put it out there that I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't intentionally stay away from meetings because they don't feel like attending. Particularly backbench councillors who are deemed part-time have vast diaries and vast commitments, and I don't particularly like being told that that attendance is a big issue and being reminded by other councillors. So can we just drop this constant attack all the time? Because I'm sort of getting really fed up with this constant attack on all the time. Diaries are full. We have massive workloads to juggle I do 5 different ward surgeries along with everything else, and sometimes things clash, and I don't stay away from meetings because I don't feel like going. That isn't. So I'm just putting that out there because I'm starting to get a bit fed up with it.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Any other comments? Councillor Williams, Councillor Lucy Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. First of all, I'd like to echo the thanks to our scrutiny and democratic colleagues in supporting the scrutiny process. And I've always found it particularly useful when we have our pre-meetings. I'm aware of the fact that scrutiny always works best when it's a team effort. And those pre-scrutiny discussions where we formulate questions are incredibly useful and very important, because it then means that when we come to the scrutiny meetings, those questions are focused and formulated. And I have to take my hat off to our officers, our scrutiny officers who formulate those questions, because it's a massive information and a massive questioning which gets them brought to quite focused questions, and that's played a very important role in the effectiveness of the scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other comments? I'll take you to the recommendations then that are on page 72 of the report. Was there anything more from you, Tom, or not? No. Nope. Okay. Rebecca, did you want to say anything? Thank you. I'll ask members whether they agree with the recommendations in the report then, please. Are there any members against the recommendations? I don't see any. Are there any abstentions? That report is carried. Can I thank you very much? Thanks. Takes us to agenda item 11, which is the petition to the Council to keep Tafon Newydd open, which is on page 107 of your agenda. Jason O'Brien, Strategic Director for Children and Family Services, could you deliver the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. On the 23rd of July, Council received an e-petition titled Keep Tafon Newydd Open. This was supported by 311 signatories. Tafon Newydd has historically been provided as a commission service by Action for children with additional needs in the Council. In autumn 2023, and in line with our contract standing orders, the Council commenced a retendering process for a like-for-like service based on the same level of funding. Unfortunately, the retendering process was unsuccessful, either because specification was not fully met, or, as was in the case of Action for Children, the return bid was exceeded by a significant amount. We engaged fully with Action for Children once we became aware of this position, in attempts to examine the potential for alternative arrangements and service offers, but this proved to be unsuccessful. During these discussions, we extended the contract for Action for Children by a further 4 months in order to ensure that we could develop alternative provision and in order to enable a transition for children and families affected by the service. A significant number of children in receipt of services from Tafon Newydd were already known to the play service and to our early years provision, and so we set about creating community-based offers with these well-established services. Since this time, we've offered to meet with all families in receipt of services from Tafon Newydd in order to ensure that services could be offered based on assessed individual need. A small number of families have chosen not to take up the offer of ongoing assessment, but we'll continue to offer the opportunity to engage. In essence, members, we found ourselves in a position where, despite the best efforts, we were unable to continue with the commissioned arrangements with Action for Children to provide services through Tafon Newydd. Since this time, however, we've crafted community-based offers, which are determined by clear assessment of need for individuals and children and families. I fully appreciate that changes to an established service will have, and in some cases may continue to have, an impact on those affected by the change, but I'm confident that we are and will continue to provide a quality service in line with assessed levels of need. Thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you, Jason. Any members wishing to comment? I take you to the recommendations then that start on page 107 of the report. Can I ask members if they agreed with the recommendations? Are there any members against the recommendations? And any abstentions? That report is carried, and thank you for that response, please. Agenda item 12 is the update on political balance. Committee chairs and membership of committees on page 113 of the agenda. Jason Lewis, Director of Corporate Services and Head of Democratic Services, could you deliver this report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. This report is to seek the approval of the Council for revisions to the political balance as a result of the formation of the new political group. The revisions are based upon the calculations set out in Appendix A of this report. Appendix B shows the proposed allocation of committee seats. The allocation of Scrutiny Committee chairs is described in paragraph 5.4 of this report. You'll note that based upon the calculations, the Torfaen Independent Group and the Reform UK Wales Group are each entitled to 0.55 of a chair. Normally, in these circumstances, the appropriate Scrutiny Committee would vote for a chair. However, in this instance, Councillor David Thomas has stated his intention not to seek nomination and appointment to the position of chair. Therefore, the Torfaen Independent Group, currently represented by Councillor Janet Jones, will retain the allocation of the Scrutiny Committee chair for the remainder of the current municipal year. Members should note that there was an administrative error on the originally published version of Appendix B describing the membership of the Children and Families Overview and Scrutiny Committee, although you should have all now received a corrected copy of that appendix from Dominique. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask members of the new party if they wish to speak first, please? No? Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Sue Balsam.
Thank you, Rose. Question to Dave Thomas. Has Walt Disney been in touch with you? The live version of Pinocchio? For months, you've tried to get in to the Labour Party. The lies that you spun Labour members is totally unbelievable. Yes, I don't know who you're talking to in the background, but you would with me once, you've done it again. I came over to your ward and I had the decency to call you and say I'm coming over there as a champion. We attended the club, 3 of you were there. I introduced you to the trainers as the 3 independent councillors down that ward, and I was there as a champion role. One of you, Alan Slade, turned around and said, well, we wouldn't want Lantarnham. Lantarnham wouldn't want you down here because you're Labour. Now, weren't you Labour to begin with? Yes? So how many times are you going to jump ship? I'm sorry, but policies and procedures need to be addressed and looked at because it's not fair on our residents, not fair at all. They vote us in for which political party we stand for. And how many times do they have to jump ship? It is not fair on our residents. This is a matter of urgency and needs to be looked at. So, Dave, I still will be coming down in your ward as my champion role, and I'll work with you, but I'll never ever trust you or believe anything that comes out of your mouth, because for months and months you have tried to your best to get back into the Labour Party, and you and I had plenty of conversations about it. Then all of a sudden, you reform. Lies. That nose is going to get too big. You won't get through Welsh Assembly doors. End of.
Thank you, Councillor Malsom. Alan Slade, Councillor Alan Slade, you wish to speak?
Yes, I would just like to say that it's disappointing that Councillor Mawson took something out of context, which was said as a joke at the time. She is always welcome in Lantarnham, particularly in her role as Members' Champion. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nathan Yowell.
Thank you, Chair. No, I've got no Disney analogies, unfortunately, but I do want to continue on some of the themes that Councillor Malson has already set out. But I'd like to start by saying it's a shame, actually, that the members of the new group aren't here today, because actually we are discussing the formation of the reform group, but also because Lantarnham School was here. I think it would have been a courtesy, actually, if the members for that ward and that school were here. I was going to extend my best wishes and congratulations to Councillor Thomas for becoming the leader of the group, and I still actually extend those wishes. I mean, Councillor Melson's gazumped slightly what I was going to say, but I can answer you, I think, Sue, in terms of how many times Councillor Thomas, at least, has changed party affiliation in this place, although I might have missed some out. So if anybody in the room thinks I've missed that out, please do let me know. So Sue is right. Councillor Thomas was first elected as a Labour councillor in 2017. So that's one. Then he became an independent. I think in 2019 you stood as a Brexit Party candidate in the general elections, that's 3. Back to independent, that's 4. Special guest star with the Tories in 2021. I was Lynn Eagle's agent in the Senate elections, and Councillor Thomas was proudly wearing the blue rosette on the night of the count. We've then had the independent group subsequent to the last election when, God love you all, the 3 independent groups couldn't get on and we had 3 of you here. And now you've gone over to reform, so that's 7. As Councillor Melson has set out, you spent much of the summer, Councillor Thomas did at least, I'm not vouching for the Councillor Slade or Councillor O'Connell, spent much of the early part of this summer asking members of the Labour group, would we appreciate it or would we let him come back in? The response to that ultimately was no. Now, I have to accept, or I have to believe it at least, that those discussions took part in good faith. Because I would hate to think that Councillor Thomas, at the same time, was talking to the Reform Party just to work out what might be in the best personal and political interests for him and his colleagues. But like I said, we can play that with a straight back going forward, and it's your prerogative to change party. The second thing, if I may, Chair, the thing that's struck me the most in the last 2 years since I was first elected here is the extent to when it comes to matters of inclusion in Torfaen or dealing with potentially marginalised or previous or groups that were prejudiced against, is the extent to which this place is much stronger when the groups come together. So I think Giles brought the motion about pride in Torfaen, which basically led to both Councillor Clark and myself being very open and honest in this place about issues about prejudice we feel we've felt in the past, and actually people came together and were very supportive. It's the same when, in the last 18 months, we've celebrated the work of the Gypsy Traveller unit in Westmont. It's a shame he's not here, but also with Councillor Jones. I think at the last meeting of the Prosperous Communities Overview Scrutiny, we had quite a long discussion about how at Pontypool United they're trying to actually pilot community-based approaches to tackling antisocial behaviour and making sure that the kids are treating each other properly and working together as they should. So actually, I think the fact that we can come together on those issues is vitally important. I'm being serious now. The fact that, like I said, it's the prerogative of any member if they want to change party, however many times they wish to do it. But the fact that actually the 3 members in Lantarnum have chosen, and at this point in time over this summer, post the riots and post the sort of the fevered political period we've had, they have chosen to chuck their lot in with a political party whose leaders are under severe questioning about the parts they have played in either stoking or trying to capitalise on the rioting and the racist behaviour and the anti-immigration sentiment. I think that says an awful lot. So I would just hope that all members in this place, be they independent or Labour, will continue to ensure we come together to promote a much more inclusive Torfaen and actually set a very good example for people out there, because quite frankly, some of the politics and the rhetoric coming out of the mouths of the millionaire MPs that the Reform councillors here have now shacked up with, quite frankly, is disgraceful, and there is no place in a civilised political environment for that sentiment or for that rhetoric.
Thank you, Councillor Yowell. Councillor Dave Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'd just like to point out that the reason why I'm not in the council today is because I'm on holiday, and I think I'm entitled to go on holiday with everybody else. Had I not been on holiday, I would have loved to have been in the council chamber today. But after saying that, I would just like to thank everybody for their kind remarks this morning, and wish everyone all the very best in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I don't see anybody else wishing to speak, so the recommendations start on page 114 of the report. And ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please. Any members against the recommendation? Any abstentions? Thank you. That report is carried. Thank you, Jason. Takes us to agenda item 13, which is the motions on notice. Councillor Janet Jones and Nick Hawler, can you move and explain your motion for us, please, as shown on page 123 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. The decision made by central government to only give winter fuel payments to those pensioners on pension credit is disastrous and dangerous to the well-being of so many of our residents who will have to decide whether to heat their homes or put food on the table this winter. Either decision would potentially cause serious health issues, which in turn could put more pressure on the already overstretched Health Board.
We're extremely concerned that any change may infringe on those that are not computer literate, which we believe is the best way to apply for benefits and financial support.
Therefore, we ask that this authority send a request to the Government in London asking that this decision is revoked.
Thank you, Councillor Jones and Councillor Horler. Can I ask if we have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Tew. Councillor Daniels, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to move an amendment. It's an amendment that I've put together in negotiation with Councillors Horler and Jones, because, you know, I know both very well, and I know the sincerity that's felt behind it. I think that it hopefully meets a sort of a middle ground, really, because I think that the principle of universality, particularly when that has been long dispensed with for, you know, my generation, I think, you know, it's indefensible that millionaires and very wealthy individuals are getting this money. But where we have a commonality, and I think this is in light of what Councillor Yole was saying, where we find middle ground, common ground, is that we all have a concern and a need for that reassurance around those who fall above that threshold, and particularly just above that threshold. So hopefully this comes in the spirit of that. Are we able to get that up on the screen for the members at home to see? Because I've submitted it beforehand.
Yes, members, the amendment will be coming up on screen.
So I'll read it out shortly, but it's written in a non-party political way because I wanted to make it as comfortable as possible for anyone who's not a member of a party to feel comfortable with. I'll read it out now. So basically it is that we note the decision made by central government to only give winter fuel payments to those pensioners on pension credit. Everything after that in the original motion is deleted and is then superseded by this council resolves to write to the Chancellor to seek reassurances that those pensioners whose income fall close to the threshold for pension credit but are not eligible will receive support as needed through the coming winter period. This council welcomes a retention of the triple lock on pensions, which will see the basic state pension rise by £900 this year and £460 next year. And finally, this council also recognises that the pension credit is an underclaimed benefit and calls for all levels of government to undertake a national campaign to encourage uptake of pension credit, and that we commit to a local effort to encourage Torvine residents to apply for the benefit. So hopefully in that we've got a recognition of that sincere concern for those who fall just above that threshold. And I like to think it comes in the vein of a very caring approach that we've had in Torvine in particular towards that period of welfare reform that we've unfortunately had to go through for the past 14 years. A recognition that pensioners will receive greater state pension in the coming years, which is very much welcomed, and also some action attached to it, because I know that both of you are very passionate about actually doing, not just saying, around the recognition that pension credit is an underclaimed benefit. So hopefully we will see some action from a national level around encouraging people to uptake this crucial benefit, which unlocks other benefits, as we all know, and locally we'll play our part in that. So with that, I'll put that to members.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Is there a seconder for the amendment, please? Councillor Dave Williams, thank you. Any other comments or debate on this amendment? No? Sorry, Councillor Janet Jones.
Madam Presiding Officer, we thank you on behalf of the Independent Group for the work that officers have done with us in trying to get an amendment that's suitable to all of us, and we appreciate the cooperation that we've had over the past few weeks in this issue.
So I'll take a vote on... Oh.
I'd just like to echo those thoughts. It's very much appreciated. Working collectively together, we can achieve, which is really important for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other debate on the amendment? Leader.
Just as a point of information, really, I think we've. I'm glad that Council has committed to a a push on pension credit take-up, because that's something that can benefit benefit older people well above and beyond just winter fuel payment. I'd like to spread, because the point about digital exclusion I think is a good one. The pension credit claim line is 0800 99 1234. That's 0800 99 1234. In addition, we will be in touch with some information to assist people who are looking to claim pension credit, because regardless of this, I think that's something we need to point out and publicise as much as we can. So that's 0800 99 1234.
Thank you, Leader. We'll now take a vote on the amendment as listed on the screen. Can I ask members, all those in favour of the amendment, please show. Anybody against? Councillor Haynes and Councillor Alan Slade and Councillor Giles Davis. Noted. Any abstentions? That amendment is carried. So that takes us back to the substantive motion, which is as received. Let me just check what I am. I'd just like to vote on the substantive motion now, which is part of Councillor Janet Jones and the amendment included, which becomes the substantive motion. All those in favour, please. Anybody against? Saying 3 yes, and any abstentions? Thank you. That amendment is carried with substantial motion. Thank you, members. The motion is carried. Check where I am. Takes us to members' question time, agenda item 14. There are 8 questions for today, and the first question is from Councillor Liam Coles. Will you read the question, please, Councillor Coles?
Thank you, Presiding Member. For over 50 years, the Arthur Jenkins Home has been a support for some of the most vulnerable people in the community of Blaenavon. The Executive Member will know the devastating impact the news of the proposed closure of the home has had on my ward, especially on the current residents, staff and their families. What assurances can the Executive Member give to those most affected that TCBC are doing all they can to support them at this most difficult time? And has the Council urged Havard to explore alternative models of funding and or management that could keep the home open and operational? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Dave Daniels.
Thank you, Councillor Coles, for your question. I'm acutely aware of the strength of feeling in Blaenavon and in the homes, in the home in particular. I've been living and breathing this issue for the past 2 weeks since the notice was given, and I have been doing so because it feels absolutely appropriate. The gravity of the situation for those residents there and the staff and the community and their families is not lost on me. And yeah, I'm happy to say that it preoccupies my dreams as well, quite rightly. Like you, I was really saddened to hear that the operators of Arthur Jenkins intend to close the home. My thoughts are with residents and staff at what I know will be an immensely difficult time for everyone. I'm sure that you'll agree that the main priority for our officers has to be on supporting residents throughout this unsettling period. When a provider tells us they're closing a home, they're required to give us 3 months' notice, and we immediately start our home closure process. This process is there to protect residents and to make sure that there's enough time for residents to find a suitable home and to move safely and with dignity. I've spoken daily, on some days hourly, with officers since receiving the notice, and I'm reassured that our social workers are in regular contact with everyone living in the home and are working hard to support residents and their families. Our teams are continuously assessing what matters most to each and every resident in helping them to reach their decisions, and as things stand, and are hoping to have alternatives lined up soon. As well as supporting residents directly, our teams have also been in frequent contact with Havard, the operator, to explore any alternatives to home closure. Members may be aware that Havard have received speculative interest from another care provider. Before a new provider can take over, there are a few things that need to take place. They need to agree the lease, Havard hold a long lease on the building, and there are clauses in the lease that would allow them to assign it to another provider, so I don't see this being a problem going forward. They also need to look at how staff would transfer to the new business. We also need to do due diligence on any new providers to be confident that they are appropriate to provide care in Arthur Jenkins. And finally, and most importantly, the new provider needs to secure registration from the care inspectorate. This can be a lengthy process, taking anything between 12 and 14 weeks. You'll appreciate that it wouldn't be appropriate for us to pause the process of securing alternative home provision for residents whilst these talks take place. If we did this, we might spend the whole notice period exploring speculative alternatives to a closure, only to potentially find them unviable. This would not be acceptable. This would not leave us with enough time to find appropriate alternative homes for residents in the small amount of time remaining. Whilst we would obviously love to find alternative homes now and then hold off the moves until the last possible minute, this unfortunately would not be possible, as the new homes would only be able to hold spaces for a short period of time, and this is the dilemma that we face. We've therefore asked Havard if they would be willing to extend the home closure notice period until mid-February. This would allow us to stand down the current offers of housing from other care providers until the inspectorate have made a decision on a new provider, which we hope that would be this side of Christmas. We would then have enough time in the new year to find new homes for if the inspectorate did not approve the new provider. I really do appreciate how unsettling this process is, but I am confident that our officers are working tirelessly and with the best interest of our residents to resolve this. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. The second question is from Councillor Janet Jones.
Thank you. Statements issued implied that the decision to close the Arthur Jenkins home was a joint decision with Torfaen Council. Can you please make the many concerned residents who come to myself and Councillor Hora aware of what the involvement was in the process prior to the embargo being lifted on September the 3rd?
Councillor Daniels.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Yeah, certainly. And before I come in with my answer, I just wanted to thank the Blaenavon members for the level of engagement. It's been, we've had daily conversations, and it's, I feel like I've got to know you on a fundamental level and what you care about, and I'm in awe of your passion. So thank you for the level of engagement you've had. The decision to close Arthur Jenkins was exclusively a decision for the operators, Havard. I'm aware that Havard's board reached this decision in late August. I know that the Havard board will not have taken this decision lightly. And I do know that there are serious challenges facing providers of small general residential homes across the country. Council officers regularly speak to all of our providers about the quality of their care and about the sustainability of their services. This is an important part of our commissioning function, and we would expect officers to do so. So officers have been aware of therefore, that an occupancy at Arthur Jenkins was low as 50% for the last couple of years, and that this presented a sustainability challenge for Havard. However, each provider is different, and each one will have a different business model and be able to sustain a different level of vacancy for a period of time. Whilst I understand the challenges that Havard have faced, the decision to close was only taken when Havard's board met in early September. Anything prior to this would have been speculation. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Before I go on to my next question, I can assure you that Councillor Hora and I have had sleepless nights for the last 10 days, so we appreciate the support that you've given us on a daily basis. So my next question is, Havard have a lease on the land and the building for Torfaen Council. Under the terms of the lease, who was responsible for building inspections? Was it Havard, Torfaen Council, or both? And how often was this inspection conducted?
Certainly. The lease requires the providers, so Havard, to be responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of the building, so it would have been Havard's responsibility to undertake building inspections. The Council's asset management team have not been approached by Havard to ask for any condition surveys to be undertaken.
Thank you.
Last question, you will please to know from me. Havard state that the reason for the proposed closure is due to the poor state of the building and the financial input required make it unsustainable. However, Care Inspectorate Wales report of July 2024 puts the blame on poor governance at the home. Can officers offer us any information or explanation?
Certainly. The Care Inspectorate Wales report that you referred to looked exclusively at the quality of care provided at the home and not the structure of the building. Inspectors that visit the premises are there to review the practices and processes of the home to ensure that the care that the residents are receiving are to the highest standard. They would not have had expertise in asset management or surveying, which is why the report doesn't focus on the building in depth. Care Inspectorate Wales inspected the home in July 2024 and issued 5 priority action notices, or PANs. PANs are issued when the inspectors identify significant issues that require swift action to put them right. All 5 PANs relate to care quality and management. However, none of these PANs have led so far to an enforced closure of the building. This means that Haver's decision to close the home is not necessarily a result of the inspector's report or the PANs. Haver's statement relates to the financial input required to make the care home sustainable. As I mentioned in my earlier answer, I do understand the difficulties in operating a general residential home in the current climate. Most other providers in the borough have invested to move away from general residential and to look at EMI, so elderly, mentally infirm, residential or nursing care where the demand is higher. But I do also understand how challenging it would be to invest in the sums of money required to bring this particular property up to that standard. It was built many years ago, and the standards required for EMI and nursing are very high. So both statements are true. The Care Inspectorate's findings did focus on the quality of care, but Haver's decision was based on the financial viability of operating a general residential home in an ageing building. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, our concerns in this process have been the care of the residents, their safety, the concerns to be addressed by all the relatives, and that our staff are looked after as well. So we thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Question 5, Councillor Nick Horler.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. If Arthur Jenkins' home is closed, it would be a detrimental to the community, as it plays a vital part in our community, taking part in the intergenerational projects with schools and other groups. It would be a great loss to the community as a whole if it should be taken away. Are you fully aware of the effect that this is having on our community and the support that is being shown by banners placed around our town and the fencing around the building? Thank you.
Oh, I've left my mic on, that's good. As I said in my response to the original question from Councillor Cowles, I was really saddened to hear of the closure. My thoughts are with those directly impacted, particularly those who live in the home, and the staff who work there, many of whom have worked there for many years. But I also know that the impact of the home goes far beyond those who are directly involved. Arthur Jenkins has been a big part of the community life in Blenavon for over 50 years. And I'm very much, to answer your original question, I'm very much aware of the strength of feeling held for Arthur Jenkins in Blenavon. And even if I somehow didn't, the daily, almost hourly phone calls from yourselves made sure of that. So I feel like I've been thinking exclusively of Blenavon for 2 weeks now. So job done from your perspectives, I would say. Throughout this process, myself and officers have worked very closely with Havard to both secure alternative homes for residents in case of closure and to explore any potential for a viable alternative providers to take over responsibility for Arthur Jenkins. We will continue to press Havard to extend the notice in the hope that alternative provider can take on the home, invest and make the home sustainable for the future. In addition, I've asked officers to look at any potential local job opportunities for staff at Arthur Jenkins should they be able to secure alternative employment as part of the redundancy process. I'm acutely aware that this will be an immensely difficult period for them. I want to ensure that we're doing our very best for them too.
Thank you.
Question 6, Councillor Horler.
Would you agree that the main priority currently is the residents, family members and staff belong to the long-term decisions that are made about the site and the future use? How do we go forward as members with our community who are continuously asking questions about the future of Arthur Jenkins' home? Are TBC and Havard prepared to open dialogue within our community to ease the current climate? Thank you.
Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I very much agree with your opening statement. There's been a lot of speculation about the future of the building itself, and it's genuinely unhelpful at this delicate time. Current residents and their loved ones will be feeling anxious about the future of their home, and staff will be worrying about their livelihoods. And we're currently going through a very sensitive and ever-evolving process, so I think it's absolutely right that the focus for myself and officers needs to remain exclusively on what's best for the people that are there at the moment. We're doing our utmost to find a viable way forward for a responsible alternative provider to keep Arthur Jenkins. So conversations about any future use of the site, that should the whole process be unsuccessful, that will be for another day. And I dare say you will bring that back if that is the case.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Horler.
Yeah. Have TBC got a surplus of requirements of bed spaces within the borough? And if this is the case, has this affected Arthur Jenkins' shortfall of residents, putting a strain on Havard? Why is the Arthur Jenkins home not fully occupied? Has Havard been turning away emissions over the last year just to keep enough residents to keep it going?
So this probably merits a members' seminar at some point, I think, so I'll request one off the back of this. So the Council takes a strengths-based approach to our discussions with residents. It means that our social workers work hard to establish what matters most to each resident so that together they collaboratively choose the most appropriate type of care. So for some time now, there's been a strong trend of older people with less complex needs opting to remain in their own homes for as long as possible. And one of the impacts of this trend is that the demand for lower needs care, general residential, of which is currently provided at Arthur Jenkins, has lessened over time. Increasingly, people who are placed in residential care are of a higher, more complex need. This is now where the demand is. And this does mean that the Council has been making fewer placements into general residential across the board, and this is a trend we're seeing outside of the borough across the country. Residential care in Torfaen is delivered by many different providers across the borough. Each provider has its own business model, with some attracting privately paying individuals and others relying on placements supported by the local authority. In 2023, the Council made 80 new placements into general and EMI residential. 11 of those placements were in Arthur Jenkins. That's around 14% of the total, and so I don't believe that the Council has been restricting placements to this home. In recent years, Havard have applied a top-up fee of £80 in addition to the agreed local authority rate, and whilst this has now been withdrawn, this may have impacted on the number of people choosing to move to the home.
Thank you.
That takes us to question 8, which is a change of subject from Councillor Nicola.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I think we need a change from Blanavon, but we need to talk about the borough. Please can you inform me of the TBC policy on recycling and unused refuse cycling containers that residents no longer need? As there are members of my community that cannot get down to Household Recycling Centre in New Inn, could it be the case that these containers could be recycled at recycling hubs locations to potentially save costs? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manby-Owen. Oh, Sue, sorry, Sue. Councillor Sue Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member, and thank you, Councillor Horner, for your questions. Also, thank you for your concern on environmental issues and your very helpful input in seeking to increase recycling, as well as reduction and reuse of waste in Torfaen. Also, your concern for those who might find more challenges than others in playing their part in this important fight against climate change. So, to turn to your question, I want to thank everyone in the community who is working alongside us to reduce waste and its impact on climate change and to meet those Welsh Government targets. The Waste and Recycling Service is transforming via the Raise the Rate programme to encourage and support us all towards greater efforts and levels of recycling. We're really grateful to our staff and to our communities for all that they do. As a next step, to streamline recycling collections, improve material quality and reduce litter, we are taking some of the recyclable material out of the plastic boxes and collecting it in larger red recycling bags that can be closed and can be easily stored. The red sacks will be used to collect plastics, cans and Tetra Paks. Initially, yes, there will be some spare recycling boxes, but over time they will be needed as replacements. Although it's not possible to collect the spares in a cost-effective way, they are easy to store underneath the box that is still being used, and people should feel free to share them with neighbours, friends and family. If anyone doesn't want to stack the spare under their box and really can't share it with someone else, the boxes can then be taken to the local household recycling centre for recycling. Thank you for your question.
Can I just have a supplementary on it?
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Thank you. I get that. I really do get that. But I'm sure there are many people within the north of the borough that will struggle. And the bottom line is that these containers could be recycled for other uses, again, through their own households. surely we should be looking at a bigger structure to be able to help our community have these boxes, because I've got a feeling, and I think a lot of us will feel the same, that eventually we will see more black boxes being picked up by other sources that is not completely necessary.
Wish to respond, Councillor Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hall. I do share your concern that those with least space obviously will have more challenges. The fact that the boxes stack, though, I think makes it a very small increase on the amount of space that is needed. And I would urge people, if they can't share them around usefully, to just stack them and retain them until, with natural wastage, they will come in handy. If nothing else, come Christmas time, when we all have a little more recycling, they may be useful in those sorts of periods.
Thank you very much, councillors. I've received apologies from Councillor Alfie Best, if they can be recorded, please. Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 15, which is the Cabinet decisions of the 23rd of July 2024. Cabinet decisions start on page 1 through 5, and are for Council to note. There were no challenges to any of the decisions. Any members wishing to speak or comment on those minutes? Can I ask members whether they agree the recommendations then, please? Are there anybody against those recommendations? Any members who wishes to abstain? That report is noted. Thank you. Those minutes. Date and time of the next meeting for your information, members. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024 at 10 a.m. Can I thank all members for attending the meeting this morning, and have a good day. Bye.